I never thought I'd be the type of woman to find herself in a situation like this. I was always the devoted wife, the one who believed in vows and commitments. But life has a way of unraveling the stories we tell ourselves, and mine began to unravel the night I opened the door to an unexpected temptation. It started with Ryan. He was my husband's best friend, someone who had been around for years. We had always shared casual conversations, exchanged polite smiles at dinner parties, and nothing more. But that night, something shifted. My husband, Mark, had been working late for weeks, barely present in our home, his mind consumed with his job. And I had grown lonely in ways I didn't want to admit. Ryan stopped by unannounced, claiming he had come to drop off something for Mark. The moment I opened the door, I felt it, a tension I had never noticed before. His eyes lingered on mine a second too long, his smile carrying something more than just friendly warmth. Maybe it was the way I had been feeling, unseen, untouched, forgotten, that made me vulnerable. Or maybe it was the way his fingers brushed against mine when I reached for the envelope he was holding. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low, concerned. I should have said yes. I should have stepped back, closed the door, and ended the moment before it became something more. But instead, I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding and whispered, "I don't know." That was all it took. The hesitation in my voice, the silent plea in my eyes. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, and suddenly the air between us was thick with something unspoken. We sat on the couch, talking in hushed tones, and for the first time in months, I felt heard, understood, desired. One glass of wine turned into two, and with each sip, my resolve weakened. His hand brushed against my knee, and I didn't pull away. His gaze dropped to my lips, and I didn't stop him when he leaned in. The kiss was slow at first, testing boundaries, searching for permission. But once the dam broke, there was no stopping it. Hands tangled in hair, lips moved with urgency, and the space between us vanished completely. The guilt whispered in the back of my mind, but the ache of longing drowned it out. I had spent so long being invisible, and now, in Ryan's arms, I was seen. When it was over, reality crashed into me like a tidal wave. I pulled away, breathless, heart pounding. "We can't do this," I said, shaking my head as I stood. Ryan exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I know," he murmured, "but we already did." And that was the truth that would haunt me. Days passed, and Mark never suspected a thing. But I did. Every time he kissed me goodbye in the morning, every time he reached for my hand at dinner, I felt the weight of what I had done pressing against my chest. Ryan and I never spoke of it again, but the memory lingered in every glance, in every accidental touch when we found ourselves in the same room. The worst part was that it didn't stop at just one night. The stolen glances became longer, the moments alone more dangerous. I tried to fight it, to convince myself it was a mistake never to be repeated. But the more I pushed it down, the stronger it grew. Late-night texts turned into secret meetings. I told myself I wasn't the kind of woman who would do this, who would betray the vows she took. But there I was, slipping further into something I couldn't control. One evening, Mark called to say he'd be working late again. As soon as I hung up, my heart pounded with anticipation rather than guilt. Ryan was already waiting outside, and when I opened the door, we didn't say a word. The silence spoke for us. As time passed, the secrecy became suffocating. I loved my husband, or at least I told myself I did, but I also couldn't deny the way Ryan made me feel, desired, alive, reckless. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. But secrets have a way of unraveling, just like the lies we tell ourselves. And I knew, deep down, that the truth wouldn't stay buried forever.